He told his mom I was too unstable to be alone with our newborn. So I pressed play on the nursery audio and let her hear what he really sounded like when nobody was watching. Before we dive in, if you enjoy full Reddit-style relationship stories with postpartum drama, gaslighting, receipts, and consequences that hit hard, please hit like, subscribe to channel, and drop a comment at the end telling me whose side you're on. We're pushing for our first 100 subscribers, and every interaction helps YouTube actually test these videos. Alright, here's the story. I'm Maya, 28F. My husband Ethan is 32M. We've been together 6 years, married for 3. Our son Noah was born 8 weeks ago. I'll start with this. I did not have an easy birth. I had a C-section after a long labor that went nowhere. I lost more blood than expected, my incision got irritated, and breastfeeding turned into this weird combination of pain and guilt, and being judged by strangers on the internet at 3 a.m. while you're crying and holding a screaming potato that you love more than your own life. If you've never been postpartum, here's the best way I can describe it. You're exhausted in your bones, your hormones are doing parkour, and you're trying to heal while your entire world screams for you every 2 hours. I needed a partner. Ethan acted like he was going to be one. He told everyone he'd take paternity leave. He bought the baby monitor and a little white noise machine and kept saying things like, "We're a team." Then Noah came home, and Ethan slowly stopped being on the team. At first it was subtle. He'd offer to help, but only in ways that made him look helpful without actually taking the hard parts. He'd change a diaper if I asked, but he'd sigh like I asked him to build a house. He'd hold Noah for 10 minutes, then hand him back the second Noah fussed. He'd say things like, "He just wants you," as if that meant he was exempt. And I was too tired to fight about it. I kept telling myself, okay, this is temporary, we're both adjusting, it'll get better. But then Ethan started doing this thing that made my skin crawl. He started narrating my emotions. If I looked overwhelmed, he'd say, "See, you're spiraling again." If I cried, because postpartum crying happens for no reason sometimes, he'd go, "Maya, you need to calm down, you're scaring me." If I snapped after being awake for 20 hours, he'd turn into this concerned voice like he was talking to a toddler. Hey, you're getting worked up. Let's not do anything irrational." I'd stare at him like, "Are you serious right now? I'm not irrational, I'm tired, I'm bleeding, I'm healing from surgery, I'm feeding a baby, I'm not spiraling." But Ethan said it so confidently that sometimes I'd question myself. That's the part people don't get about gaslighting. It's not one big lie. It's 1,000 tiny comments that push you away from your own reality. And Ethan had an audience. Because he didn't just say this to me, he said it to other people. My first clue came 2 weeks postpartum. Noah had a pediatrician appointment. Ethan came with me and held the diaper bag like he was a hero. In the waiting room, Noah started crying, and I started sweating because breastfeeding in public felt like trying to solve a puzzle while someone screams at you. Ethan leaned down and whispered, "You're getting anxious. Breathe." I said quietly, "I'm fine." He smiled at the nurse and said, loud enough for her to hear, "She's still dealing with some postpartum stuff." The nurse gave me this sympathetic look and said, "Oh honey, it's so common." And I wanted to disappear into the floor. After the appointment in the car, I said, "Please don't tell strangers I'm dealing with postpartum stuff like I'm unstable." Ethan's face did that innocent thing. "What? I was just being honest. You've been emotional." I said I had major surgery and I'm not sleeping. Ethan shrugged. "Exactly, that's why it's postpartum, you're not yourself." That phrase, "you're not yourself," became his favorite tool. He used it like a weapon wrapped in concern. Around week 3, my mom came over to help. She lives about 40 minutes away, and she's the only reason I ate a real meal for the first month. She'd fold laundry, bring soup, hold Noah while I showered. Ethan would act sweet when she was around. Maya's doing great, we're managing. Then after my mom left, he'd say, you know she's worried about you. And I'd ask, did she say that? He'd say, she didn't have to, I can tell. Then he'd add casually, like he was mentioning the weather, I might talk to my mom. She's been through this. I said, okay. I didn't realize what he meant until Diane, my mother-in-law, showed up the next day without warning. Diane is one of those women who thinks being direct is a personality trait. She's always had an opinion about everything. My job, my wedding flowers, the fact that I didn't take Ethan's last name, the way I decorate. Her favorite hobby is finding tiny flaws and calling them concerns. She walked into my house like she owned it, kissed Ethan's cheek, and went straight for the baby. Oh, my sweet Noah, she cooed. Then she looked at me and said, how are we doing, Maya? Not how are you, but how are we? Like I was a group project she didn't trust. I said, tired but okay. Diane tilted her head. Ethan said you've been having moments. I froze. What? Ethan was behind her, making this face like please don't start. Diane continued. He said you get overwhelmed and then you cry and you can't settle down. I looked at Ethan. You told your mom that. Ethan stepped in like the mediator. Babe, I just wanted her to understand. It's normal. It's postpartum. She's trying to help. I said, by coming here and interrogating me. Diane's lips tightened. I'm not interrogating. I'm making sure my grandson is safe. Safe? That word hit like a slap. I said he's safe. I'm his mother. Diane smiled like she was humoring me. Of course. But you know, postpartum depression, postpartum psychosis, those things happen. Better to be careful. I felt my chest tighten. I don't have postpartum psychosis. Diane looked at Ethan like she didn't believe me. Ethan put a hand on my shoulder, too firm, too controlling, and said softly, it's okay, Maya. Nobody's accusing you. We just want support. That was the first time I realized Ethan wasn't supporting me. He was building a narrative where he was the calm parent and I was the risk. After Diane left, I confronted him. Why would you tell your mom I'm unstable? Ethan's eyes widened like I was unreasonable. I didn't say unstable. You told her I have moments. I told her you've been emotional, he said, because you have. I said, so your solution is to tell your mother I'm unsafe. He sighed like I was exhausting. Nobody said unsafe. I stared at him. She literally said she's making sure Noah is safe. Ethan shrugged. That's just how she talks. Don't take it personally. Don't take it personally. It's amazing how quickly someone can turn you into a problem to manage instead of a person. Over the next couple weeks, Ethan's behavior got worse. He'd watch me like I was a bomb. If I looked tired, he'd say, are you okay? Because you seem off. If I got frustrated, he'd say, let me take Noah. You're getting worked up. He started insisting I rest, but he didn't actually take over. He'd hand Noah to Diane, or he'd call his sister, or he'd put Noah in the bassinet and let him cry while he scrolled his phone, then blame me when Noah didn't settle. And if I complained, Ethan would get calm in this creepy way and say, see, this is what I mean, you're angry all the time. One night when Noah wouldn't stop crying, I was bouncing him and crying too. Ethan stood in the doorway with his arms crossed and said, you're scaring him. I snapped, he's a baby. He's crying because he's hungry or tired. Ethan said very quietly, you're not safe like this. My whole body went cold. What did you just say? I asked. Ethan blinked. I said you need help. No, I said, you said I'm not safe. Ethan sighed dramatically and said the sentence that made everything click. Maya, if you keep acting like this, people are going to start asking questions. That's when I realized this wasn't concern. It was a threat. The next morning, I called my mom and told her something was off. She asked me if I felt depressed. I said, I feel tired and stressed, but I don't feel like I'm losing my mind. My mom said, then trust yourself. I decided I was done being confused. If Ethan wanted to build a case, I was going to build reality. I started writing things down. Dates, times, exact phrases, not dramatic, just factual. I also started recording audio sometimes, not secretly in a weird way, but because the nursery monitor we had automatically recorded clips when it detected sound. Ethan had insisted on that model because, quote, we should have records in case anything happens. At the time, I thought he meant if Noah stops breathing or if the monitor glitches. Now I realized he meant records like evidence. Here's the part that still makes my stomach twist. Ethan was so confident in his narrative that he started saying the quiet parts out loud. One afternoon, Noah was napping and I was finally lying down for 10 minutes. Ethan walked in and said, I talked to my friend Ben. I said, okay. Ethan sat on the edge of the bed and said, Ben's cousin went through something postpartum. It got bad, like emergency custody bad. My heart started pounding. Why are you telling me this? Ethan's voice stayed gentle. I'm not saying that's you. I'm just saying these things happen, and I have to think about Noah. I sat up. Are you threatening me? Ethan looked offended. I'm being responsible. Then he said, if you just admit you need help, we wouldn't be here. We wouldn't be here. Like he'd already decided we were here. That night, Diane called Ethan. I could hear his side of the conversation from the kitchen. She's up and down, he said. Yeah, I know, I'm watching her, I'm keeping Noah safe. I felt like I couldn't breathe. Ethan turned when he saw me and immediately softened his voice. I'll call you back, he told Diane and hung up. What did you just say? I asked. Ethan smiled. Nothing. You said you're watching me, I said. Ethan put his hands up. You're twisting it. No, I said, I heard you. Ethan's smile vanished. Maya, this is exactly what I mean. You hear something and you spiral. Spiral, there it was again. I realized in that moment, arguing with him was pointless. Every emotion I showed became evidence against me. So I stopped arguing. I got quiet. And Ethan mistook my quiet for surrender. The following week, he invited Diane over again, without asking me. I walked into the living room, and she was sitting on my couch with a folder in her lap. A folder. Like this was an appointment. Diane looked up at me and said, we need to talk. Ethan stood behind her like security. Diane opened the folder and pulled out a printed page. I printed information about postpartum mental health, she said, because Ethan is worried. I looked at the page. It was literally a list of symptoms with highlighted sections. Diane said, he told me you've been having episodes. I said, I've been tired. Diane tapped the page. Sleep deprivation can trigger psychosis. Ethan said, Mom. Diane held up her hand, then looked at me again. Maya, I'm going to be honest. If you don't get evaluated, Ethan will have to do what's best for Noah. My body went cold again. Do what's best like what? Diane said, calm as day, temporary separation. Maybe the baby stays with Ethan for a while, until you're stable. I stared at Ethan. Is this what you want? Ethan looked pained. I don't want any of this, but you're not listening. That was when I knew, with absolute clarity, that Ethan wasn't trying to help me. He was trying to take control. Because if he could get everyone to believe I was unstable, then anything he did would look like heroism. And here's the worst part. He knew I'd be afraid to fight because fighting would look like instability. I said very calmly, I'm not leaving my baby. Diane's eyes narrowed. No one is taking him from you, we're protecting him. Ethan added softly, please don't make this harder. I felt something in me snap quietly, not rage, not hysteria. Just a clean break from confusion into strategy. I looked at them and said, "Okay, I'll get evaluated." Ethan's shoulders relaxed like he'd won. Diane smiled like she'd trained me. I went to my room, closed the door, and texted my mom, "I need you here, today." Then I opened the nursery monitor app. I'd never explored it much beyond, "Is the baby breathing?" and turn up volume. But when I clicked the recording section, I saw a list of saved clips. Dozens. Because Noah cried a lot those first weeks. And each time the monitor detected sound, it recorded. I started scrolling back through clips, mostly baby noises, some my voice singing softly, some white noise. Then I found a clip, labeled with a timestamp from 3 nights earlier. I clicked it. Noah was crying, and Ethan's voice filled my phone speaker. "Stop," he said, "stop crying." Then quieter, like he didn't want the monitor to pick it up, he added, "She's going to lose it again. Watch." I felt my stomach drop. The clip continued. Noah cried again, and Ethan said, almost amused, "There we go." Then I heard footsteps, mine. I remembered the moment. I'd woken up panicked because I heard Noah crying and Ethan wasn't soothing him. In the clip I could hear myself ask, groggy, "Did you feed him?" Ethan's voice turned sweet. "I was about to. You okay? You seem really worked up." Then he whispered, so low it made my skin crawl, "See, this is what I'm talking about." My hand started shaking so badly, I almost dropped my phone. I listened again and again. It was real. He was provoking me. He was setting me up. I kept scrolling. Another clip, Ethan in the nursery again. Noah crying. Ethan saying, "If you keep screaming like that, people are going to hear. Do you want them to think you're crazy?" That one hit differently because I wasn't screaming. In my memory, I was pleading with Ethan to stop calling me crazy. But in the clip, it sounded like I was unstable because Ethan was narrating me that way. And then, this is the clip that changed everything. I found one where Ethan was on the phone in the nursery. He didn't realize the monitor was recording. Ethan said, "No, I'm not saying she's dangerous yet, but I'm building a timeline. If she refuses to get help, it's pretty straightforward. Emergency temporary order. I talked to Ben's lawyer friend." He paused, listened, then said, "Yeah, I know. I just need one clean incident. Something I can point to." One clean incident. Like my life was a courtroom drama he wanted to produce. I sat on the edge of my bed with my mouth open, shaking, while my baby slept in the next room. I didn't cry, I didn't scream. I just felt this horrifying clarity. The person I married was trying to engineer a moment where I looked unstable so he could take my child. And his mother was helping. My mom arrived 20 minutes later and took one look at my face and said, "What happened?" I handed her my phone. I didn't explain, I just pressed play. As she listened, her expression changed from confusion to anger so fast I thought she might break something. When the one clean incident clip played, my mom's eyes filled with tears, not sad tears, rage tears. She said, "He's planning to take your baby." I nodded. My mom said, "Pack." Within an hour, we had a plan. Not a dramatic escape, a smart one. My mom told me, "Don't confront him, don't let him know you have this. We get legal advice first." So I called a family lawyer my coworker had recommended months earlier for a totally different reason. I left a message saying I needed an urgent consult. Then I called my doctor and asked for a postpartum check-in. Not because Ethan was right, but because I wanted medical documentation that I was seeking support voluntarily and wasn't in crisis. I also called Noah's pediatrician office and asked for a note that Noah had been healthy and well cared for. I started building my own file. Ethan came home that evening and acted normal, too normal, like he was proud of the day's progress. "How are you feeling?" he asked, soft voice. "Better." I smiled politely. "Yeah, I'm going to get evaluated like you wanted." Ethan's eyes lit up with relief. "That's amazing. I'm proud of you." Proud of you. Like I was a child. I wanted to throw up. That night Ethan went to bed early. I stayed up feeding Noah, but really I was saving every nursery clip to my phone and backing it up to multiple places. The next day, the lawyer called me back. I told her everything. I played her the audio. She went quiet for a long time and then said, "Okay. First, you're not crazy. Second, do not leave the baby alone with him until we have a plan, because if he takes the baby and claims you're unstable, it becomes a mess." She told me to document, keep communications in writing, and stay calm. She also said something I'll never forget. People who weaponize mental health accusations rely on you reacting emotionally. Don't give them that. So I didn't. I played the role Ethan wanted, the calm, cooperative wife. Meanwhile, I set the trap. Not a fake trap, a truth trap. Here's the mid-story hook, because this is the moment the entire situation flipped. Ethan and Diane thought they were walking me into a corner, so I invited Diane over again, on purpose. I texted Diane directly, "I want to talk, I think you're right, I need support." Diane responded almost immediately, "I'll be there at 3. When she arrived, Ethan was home too. He probably thought this was the meeting where I finally admitted I was unstable and agreed to hand over control. Diane sat on my couch like a judge. Ethan sat beside her, calm and prepared. I sat across from them with my phone in my hand. Diane started with, "Maya, we're very concerned." I interrupted gently, "Before we talk, I want you to hear something." Diane blinked, "Hear what?" I looked at Ethan and said, "Just listen." Ethan's smile faltered, "Maya, what is this?" I didn't answer him. I pressed play. The room filled with Noah crying and Ethan saying, "Stop crying, she's going to lose it again. Watch." Ethan's head snapped toward me, "What the?" I pressed play on the next clip before he could finish. Ethan whispering, "See, this is what I'm talking about." Diane's face started to change. Her confident posture stiffened. Ethan stood up, "Turn that off." I didn't. I played the phone call clip. The one where he said, "I'm building a timeline, I just need one clean incident." Silence. Absolute heavy silence. Diane's mouth opened slightly like she couldn't process the words she just heard coming from her son. Ethan's face went red. "This is insane, you recorded me." I finally spoke, calm, steady. "No, your nursery monitor recorded you, the one you insisted we buy because we needed records." Diane looked between us, confused and horrified. "Ethan, what is this?" Ethan tried to recover. He turned to Diane and said, "Mom, she's twisting it. She's out of context." I held up a hand. "Here's the context. Our baby is crying, and instead of soothing him, you're provoking me and narrating me as unstable. You literally said you needed one incident." Diane's voice shook. "Ethan, why would you say that?" Ethan looked like a cornered animal. Then he did what men like Ethan always do when the mask slips. He got angry. He pointed at me and said, "Because she's been losing it. Because she's emotional and unpredictable." I stared at him. "And you thought the best solution was to engineer a breakdown so you could take my baby?" Diane whispered, "Ethan." Ethan turned to her, desperate now. "Mom, you don't understand. She's not herself. I'm trying to protect Noah." Diane looked sick. And then, for the first time, I saw Diane not as a villain, but as a mother who realized her son might be the dangerous one. She said quietly, "Protect him from Maya." Ethan snapped, "Yes." The word hung in the air like smoke. I stood up slowly. My hands were steady. My voice didn't shake. I said, Diane, you can believe whatever you want, but I have the recordings. My lawyer has them too. My doctor appointment is scheduled. Noah's pediatrician knows he's safe and healthy. Ethan's eyes widened. Lawyer. I nodded, yes. Ethan's tone shifted again, instant fake calm. Maya, come on, we don't need lawyers, we can talk. I smiled a little, not happy, just coldly amused. You didn't want to talk when you were building a timeline, I said. Now you want to talk because you got caught. Diane stood up slowly, like her legs weren't sure they worked. Ethan, you told me she was unstable. Ethan tried to take her arm. Mom, please. Diane pulled away. Don't touch me. Then she looked at me and said something I never expected to hear from her. Maya, I'm sorry. Ethan's face twisted in disbelief. Mom. Diane shook her head. I thought I was helping. I thought you were scared. Ethan looked at me and his eyes went flat. So that's it. You're trying to destroy me. I said, no, Ethan. You tried to destroy me. I'm just showing the truth. My mom arrived 10 minutes later, on purpose, timed. She walked in and saw Ethan standing in the living room like a storm cloud and Diane sitting with her face in her hands. My mom didn't yell. She just said, Maya and the baby are coming with me for a while. Ethan stepped forward. No, you're not taking my son. I looked at him. Try to stop me and I call the police. Ethan laughed bitterly. You think the police will side with you when you're unstable. And Diane snapped. She stood up, pointed at him and said, stop saying that. I just heard you plotting. You are not doing this. Ethan turned on her like he couldn't believe she'd betrayed him. You're taking her side. Diane said, I'm taking the baby's side, and you are not acting like someone who should have control right now. Ethan looked like his world had tilted. That night, Noah and I left. I didn't run, I didn't hide, I didn't vanish. I left a paper trail. I texted Ethan, Noah and I are safe with my mother. Communication should be through text. The next morning, Ethan sent a long message about how I overreacted and humiliated him and weaponized recordings. I responded with one sentence. You said you needed one incident. I'm not giving you one. Over the next 2 weeks, Ethan tried everything. He begged, he threatened, he tried to charm. He wrote, I'm sorry, I was scared. Then, if you don't come home, I'll have to take legal steps. Then, you're keeping my son from me. I kept everything. My lawyer filed first. Not for revenge, for protection. We requested temporary custody arrangements and supervised visitation while things were evaluated, because the recordings showed manipulation and a willingness to fabricate a narrative. Ethan's lawyer tried to claim I was unstable, of course. That was his whole plan. But the judge listened to the audio. And here's the thing about evidence. It doesn't get tired, it doesn't cry, it doesn't get emotional. It just exists. When the judge heard Ethan say, I just need one clean incident, the room went very, very quiet. Ethan's face went gray. The judge ordered temporary arrangements, and Ethan was told, very plainly, that attempts to weaponize mental health claims without medical basis are taken seriously. Ethan didn't get his hero story. He got reality. As for Diane, she didn't magically become my best friend, but she backed off. She stopped calling me unstable. She stopped trying to control. She sent me a message that said, I can't believe I didn't see it. I thought I was protecting Noah. I'm sorry. I didn't forgive her quickly, but I appreciated that she finally looked at facts instead of narratives. And me, I'm healing. Not just from surgery. From the betrayal of realizing the person you trusted most was building a case against you while you were bleeding and sleep-deprived and vulnerable. Noah is okay. He's thriving. He smiles when I sing to him now. He sleeps a little longer. He grabs my finger like it's his job. Sometimes I sit in my mom's guest room, holding him, And I think about how close I came to losing my reality to someone else's story. All because I cried when I was exhausted. All because I wasn't smiling enough for Ethan's comfort. And I think about how many women don't have recordings. How many women get labeled unstable and don't have proof that someone was pushing them on purpose. That part makes me sick. So yeah, if you're wondering if Ethan regrets it, he regrets getting caught. Because if he truly regretted it, he wouldn't have tried to keep calling me unstable after the audio played in his mother's living room. He would have admitted what he did. He never did. And that's why I don't miss him. I miss who I thought he was. Now I want to ask you, because I know the comments on this one are going to be heated. If your partner told people you were unstable postpartum, would you confront them privately? Or would you show the receipts like I did? Do you think Ethan actually believed I was a danger? Or do you think he wanted control and used postpartum as an excuse? Where's the line for you? When does concern become manipulation? And if you were Diane and you heard that audio, would you cut your son off or try to fix it quietly? Drop your thoughts in the comments. And if you want more long, full Reddit-style stories with receipts, twists, and consequences, subscribe to Reddit Story Vault. I've got more coming.